Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. Just doing a good old-fashioned response video, couple reasons I want to do this response. All right. One, I remember when YouTube was a thing. I mean, it's still a thing, of course. But when YouTube was around at first, like when I had my first channel in 2009 and, Dragon Style, we had different, YouTubers. We would respond to each other. All right. We would do video. It wasn't live, but we would respond to each other. We would challenge each other. We would have differences of opinion and respond and go back and forth and stuff like that. That was normal, And when there was a topic, since videos could only be about 10 to 15 minutes long, everyone almost, just about watched one another and did direct video responses to one another. And that's something you rarely see now. We're all kind of caught up in our own thing and doing our own shows and all that stuff. But so one, I just felt like, let me do a good old-fashioned response video. So something you rarely see nowadays. And this was a good way to do that. All right. So Coach did a video. Shout out to the coach. But he did a video saying that, MMA is destroying boxing. And look, I got to tell you, the reason I'm responding to Coach, all right, the reason I'm doing this response to him as well is because he's not going to get caught up in his feelings. Like a lot of you guys out there, they get caught up and you hear a difference of opinion and you get all, butthurt and this, that, and the third. Why I don't roll like that. So check it out, right? Let me get right down to this. I'm not going to lie to you when I say the following. I knew what you were going to say for the most part, right? Before I even started listening to the video. I already knew. I knew exactly like the points that were going to be made, the assertions that were going to be made, and I knew it was a video that was going to trash boxing and pump up MMA. And I knew the reasons. I knew the what you were going to say boxing has to do. I knew everything because I've heard it all, right? I've heard it all from MMA fans for practically 10 years. This is nothing new. All the points that were made, all right? And I want to address some of them right now, all right? What's going on, Joe Lopez, 40 ounce? I see you. I want to go ahead and address some of these points. Or so something like just in general, right? Lastly, let me give you another reason as to why I'm responding. If it was just some random dude did the video, I would pay no mind, maybe leave a comment and move on. Maybe I would respond, maybe, all right? But, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think Coach is coming from a good place. I think he wants what's best for boxing, right? And in his mind, he's seen MMA just destroying boxing every day. And he wants to see boxing thrive as well. I mean, I cannot speak for him, but I get the sense that that's what it is. This is not your typical dude that just hates boxing and that's it. You know what I mean? So that's another reason I wanted to go ahead and reply. But let's go ahead and get down to the nitty-gritty, right? For years, I've been hearing nonstop about how MMA's model, and mainly the UFC, has this superior model to boxing, and that boxing needs to do something similar to the UFC in order to thrive and get back to the good old days, have the best fight the best, and because MMA gets that done all the time. That's the points that have been given to me. What's going on, Expert Genius? Okay. Here's what I'll concede. I'm not going to sit here and argue over facts, right? Like the UFC has practically they practically hold a monopoly, not a total monopoly. And I think over time they're going to lose a lot of the monopoly. It's not going to continue, right? There's a lot of issues that are going to arise from that, right? I'm already seeing some of it, but in fact, some of the things I said would happen with UFC over the years have happened. All right, so yes, they have a league, they have set contracts, and you know, it does appear like they have a much easier time making fights happen and all that, right? You know, like they have one champion for the most part. They'll have an interim champion here and there. They've started to make up their own belts, like the baddest motherfucker, but that was a one-time thing, you know, all that stuff. But, you know, I'll be a fool to say that, you know, they don't make the biggest fights happen outside of a few exceptions. I get that completely. And I think boxing needs to do a better job of getting some of the best fighters to fight each other. However, I do think the way you asserted it is completely overstated, right? I mean, if I didn't follow boxing and I heard that video and I was only an MMA fan, I would have just said to myself, why even bother watching boxing? Apparently, the best never fight the best in boxing, and it's extremely rare. Is it that rare? Is it as rare as many boxing fans have stated over the years? Is it that rare? Really? Is it any more rare than it's been in the last 20 years? 30 years? Is it really? Or do we have different perceptions of how we view each sport? Because I'll give you an example. Like you talked about some of the fights that you're looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to those fights in MMA. Not all of those. Very few of them. You know what I mean? Because I'm not that big on MMA. So those fights don't matter to me. If I say I'm looking forward to Burchelt versus Valdez, which is a fight, again, a very good boxing fight, all right, against two of the top fighters in that weight class, which is going to happen, is signed. Those guys are going to fight each other. Maybe an MMA fan, to them, they're like, who's Burchelt and who's Oscar Valdez, and why should I care? Well, I felt the same about some of the fights you mentioned. Okay, so, I mean, you want to mention a fight of Amanda Nunes. Well, on July 4th, Katie Taylor's going to fight Amanda Serrano. That's a great fight in boxing. Why can't we give boxing credit where it's due? If Nonito Donaire versus Inoue was in the MMA world, hypothetically, the MMA people would be praising that fight to the moon and using it as an example. See, these are the type of fights we get in MMA. Boxing doesn't give us this. Inoue won a whole tournament just recently, right? So I'm trying to understand where this assertion being made that boxing doesn't get it done when we've had a pretty decent amount of few years. These last 3 years have not been that bad. But one thing I have noticed, Coach, you know, is, and I'll give you an example. Now, this was still in boxing, but, you know, after Andy Ruiz upset Anthony Joshua, that was a huge moment, an exciting fight. The whole world was buzzing, and everyone loved that fight. You did a video saying that the Katie Taylor fight against Pursoon was better than that fight. Well, that's because you had an invested interest in Katie Taylor. Because you like, you know, the female fights and stuff. You know what I mean? That's why you said that. But it wasn't better. It didn't cause more buzz. It wasn't a big of a shocker. It just wasn't. Now, you did give the example, and I'm glad you did. You know, Spence versus Sean Porter, that was a big fight. What about Pacquiao Thurman? What about that fight? If that was like, put Thurman, you know, in the MMA world and Pacquiao, just hypothetically, you know what I mean? Those are two top 5, top 4 guys going at it. Like what? Of course, we are seeing this type of stuff, right? Mean Machine. I mean, a guy like that would be, you know, it's more praise than MMA. A guy of that level, okay? Like he just would. The problem with boxing is how boxing fans undervalue a lot of these fighters. Okay? They undervalue them. Like horribly. Like that's what we do. A fighter loses and boxing fans spit him out and he's a loser. He has 3 losses in his record. This guy's no good and this that. You know, we do have that problem. MMA doesn't have that problem. But it doesn't mean that they're far and away setting up better matches. I just don't see that. Are there matches we want to see, boxing fans, that, you know, at the moment we're not getting? These guys can't fight each other 12-round fights, you know, 10 times a year. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to all fight each other all at once in 1 year. It's just not going to happen. It's never happened that way. That's right, Natty. We call them bums. And I'm glad he did that video, Coach, because Otto Wallen puts up this great performance against Tyson Fury, and boxing fans, and you know what? Even myself, we instead of saying, man, what a fight, Otto Wallen came out, shocked the world. Boxing fans, come on, they just want to clown Tyson Fury instead, right? That's what we do. What's going on in Central Rage? Duck Corpse Gamer, how's it going? So, yes, there is issues that boxing has, but this idea that we're not getting, I don't know about that. I've been covering the fights. I've been doing aftermath shows for them. I've been breaking them down. Okay, I have all my notes. I can pull them out. We are getting fights. We have been getting exciting fights. Boxing has been buzzing for the last 2-3 years. It has. Can you point to fights that we're not getting? Okay, but let's talk about the ones we are getting. We didn't get Joshua Wilder. Fair enough. We got Fury Wilder twice, though. So there is fights we've gotten. We did see Andy Ruiz pull an upset against Joshua. That we did see. Let's talk about what we did see. Let's talk about what we did witness. Now, let me also say the following. And this is not just to Coach. This is to everyone out there. Guys, we all know the problems. We all know that there's a lot of promoters. And we all know there's a lot of sanctioning body. We all know these things. Now, the sanctioning bodies, yes, we should do something about that, right? I do believe we have way too many belts. Absolutely, that's true. If it was up to me, there'll be one damn champion in the whole sport. However, I'm okay if there was 2 or 3. I'd be okay with that. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I just think that, you know, we do got to lower the amount of that, of course. But like the promoters, like what exactly are you guys proposing here? Like who's the promoter that's going to take over then? Now when you guys say, oh, boxing, like I want you to stop and think, like, who are you talking to? Just for a second. Just stop and think about it. Boxing needs to do something about all the promoters it's got. Okay, but boxing is the name of the sport. Right? It's just a thing. It's like you're talking to a rock. Like, well, what do you mean boxing should do this and X, Y? Like, how do you do that? Yes, but how do you? Who decides? What's entities going to decide? Okay, you know what? Top Rank is going to run everything, or PBC is going to run everything now. Who decides that exactly? Who makes this determination? Who makes this decision? Who does that? How does it just, it's not just going to happen. Like, saying it is easy, but like, what are we going to do about it? Like, does it, like, no one in my tenure have I heard anyone give an explanation. I just see people pointing it out. The problem with boxing is there's too many promoters. I don't even think that's true, to be honest with you. I don't mind that there's different promoters. That just means there's more lines and more pockets as far as, you know, generating money and investing into the sport. That's all that means. There's promoters in Germany, in the UK, in the US, in Mexico. Like, we got promoters all over the world. John says we need a dictator in boxing, but how do we do that though? Boxing's a worldwide sport. Like, how does one guy just take over everything? How does that just, that's not going to happen. And I have news for you MMA guys. Little by little, UFC is going to start losing its ground. It's going to start happening. Other promotions have risen before, but other promotions will get bigger. They'll offer fighters more money. Before you know it, they'll be in different promotions, so on and so forth. Right? Now, the UFC is nowhere near above any criticism. They got rid of Demetrius Johnson, you know, and the MMA community just accused him of being a boring fighter. And all I saw was how boring he was and this, that, and the third. Like, this idea, right, that MMA fans, you know, all they do is talk about the upcoming fights. And that's not necessarily true either, right? Boxing fans do talk about coming fights. If Lomachenko versus, you know, Teofimo Lopez happens, I mean, first of all, Luke Campbell against Lomachenko, if that was a UFC fight, to be bragging about how, oh, see, the gold medalist is fighting Lomachenko, another gold medal. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, the thought process is just different, okay, in both sports. Right? Okay, Expert Genius, how do we do it, though? Like, no one, like, everyone knows the answer, but like, it's not possible. Do you not understand that? Like, if your idea, and I'll get to that in a moment. I'll get to that in a little bit. But Coach was talking about how, oh, the boxing fans, they keep talking about the same issues. Well, I don't know, not on my channel. All right. So if you go to my channel, right now I'm talking about, you know, fantasy fights and, you know, fights that happened before, because there was a pandemic, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything got shut down. That's what happened. You know, I'm just saying. John, like, but like, Cejudo beats like Dominic Cruz and like they used it, but like, how different is that fight to like some of the other fights we've seen? Like, how's Henry Cejudo, right, defending his championship against Dominic Cruz, a former champion? How is that any different? You know, to Luke Campbell, reigning champion, facing Lomachenko. It's not that different, guys. It just isn't. Two different sports. You know, Luke Campbell's kind of where Dominic Cruz was. Same fucking shit, okay? It's impossible, Expert. Like, these guys aren't going to drop all their investment that they've made over the years and lose all their millions just to make this happen. It's not going to happen. All right? It isn't going to happen. It just isn't. Now, MMA has its own evolution to go through. It's not going to continue the way it is now. All right? It's not. But back to MMA. Conor McGregor fights Cowboy Cerrone, and the way they promote it, right? They do a good job promoting it. And the MMA world is buzzing and excited about it. But Cowboy Cerrone was coming off losses, bro. That was a boxing match. Everybody will be bashing boxing for making that fight happen. Everybody will be bashing the sport. Everybody would just be bashing the sport, and I see the MMA videos. You know, all they do is talk about, oh, this guy's boring. He shouldn't be on there anymore. I hope Demetrius Hopkins never comes back. And he was so boring. And this guy's boring. And nobody cares about Henry Cejudo and this, that, and the third. Like, I see that too. And I agree, John. Losses are, and of course, boxing fans are going to slowly, okay, transition, okay, over to the understanding, all right? Boxing fans need to come to this understanding that fighters lose when they fight. Oh, but this guy's got 4 losses. So? What did he, after he lost? Did he get better after he lost? Did he avenge the loss? Like you know, there's a lot of things you got to talk about when you talk about losses. 92 AKU. If Manny Pacquiao, who's a star, okay, would have fought a dude coming off 3 straight knockout losses, you wouldn't hear the end of it. I mean, I would criticize it as well. Don't get me wrong. But in MMA, like, people don't, like, I get it. Like, I get what you're saying, John. All right, but there's a lot of nuance to this, right? Boxing fans care too much about losses. I get that. However, it doesn't mean, though, that just because you don't care about losses, it doesn't mean that we can't acknowledge that there's a double standard, okay, when certain fights are made. All right? It doesn't mean that. Expert Genius, for the most part, you're right. For the most part. But last year, I remember doing the award show, there was so many great fights that boxing had. I just find it baffling, this is my opinion, that anybody just criticize and shit on boxing. Because at the moment, there's no fights. What? There was a pandemic, bro. Oh, but, you know, Dana White, he pushed it. He made it happen. And props to him, he did. Right? He kind of had to. The owners of the UFC purchased it for like $4 billion. They got to make up that money. They kind of have to. Right? Boxing promoters like Arum and them, you know what I mean? They do everything at a fight-for-fight basis. They're not in a rush to just go and make the fight, not the promoters. Right? I'm just saying. Now, boxing fans shit on Lomachenko because he only has 13 fights or whatever it is, right? And he's fighting for world titles. Man, these MMA dudes been fighting. Like, Brock Lesnar fought for a world title in his fucking second or third fight, dude. And it's not like, at least Lomachenko was like a 2-time gold medalist and one of the best amateurs of all time. And then he had like 3-4 boxing World Series fights, and then 1 pro fight at least that he dominated a top 25 dude before fighting Salido. Some of these MMA dudes are like 10-10, right? And like they're main events and shit. And I get that people don't care about losses. I get it, okay? But I'm just saying. Like, winning and losing matters, guys. Right? It does matter. However, yes, boxing fans are obsessed with that 0. It's not so much losses, it's the 0 that boxing fans are obsessed with. It is that Mayweather effect. Boxing fans will slowly... Okay, boxing fans are going to slowly evolve into, you know, not caring about that shit. What's going on to Stormy? 92 IQ, I disagree that it's bigger than boxing. Bigger where? I disagree with that. I just do. Worldwide, boxing is a bigger sport by far. Boxing has more participants by far. More eyeballs. Where? What's your proof? It's not bigger than boxing, guys. I'm sorry. I know that MMA dudes get angry, okay? When I say this, it's not. And let me finally say this. Let me finally just say it, okay? Boxing is just a better sport, all right? I get that that's my opinion, all right? I get that it's my opinion. It's just a better sport. I have no interest in watching the ground game. None. I don't care for it. And a lot of people don't care for it. All right? Even MMA fans, most of them prefer stand-up fights. All right? Just saying. I am just saying. You know, like, that's just the reality. You tell me all day, oh, in MMA, they do this, they do that. Oh, we talk about this, we talk about that. You guys can talk about whatever you want, right? But in boxing, when Velasquez won the UFC heavyweight title, it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, Mexicans knew about it and stuff, but it wasn't that big of a deal. You know, we're proud of the guy and all that, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't. He would never become a big star. When Ruiz won the heavyweight championship in boxing, all right, it was a big deal. He was invited to meet the president of Mexico. It was a bigger deal. It's just a bigger deal, right? I see Velasquez invited to the fucking White House over there in Mexico. They don't call it the White House over there, but you know what I mean. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like all over. And he beat Brock Lesnar, bro. Just saying. Boxing's the biggest sport by far. MMA wants boxing's, okay, throne. That's why, okay, these type of videos keep popping up. I want to think about some. And this is not to Coach, because I think Coach comes from a good place, and I think he wants what's best for boxing. I just think he has a biased perspective, because to him, he covers MMA a lot, and it's hot to him. I get it. Okay? But most guys, like if boxing, like if MMA already surpassed boxing, why would they make these videos for? Why would they even care? Well, why would they even talk about boxing is falling behind because this, that, and the third? You want me to be honest? I don't even think right now. I don't think UFC has the same buzz it had when like Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, okay, we're on top. All right. I don't even think it has that buzz. Like when GSP was a welterweight champion, and you know what I mean. I don't think it has that buzz right now. I don't think it has that buzz right now. Right now, because it's the only fucking sport and WWE, okay, that's out there right now. That's why it has a buzz at the moment. People just wanted to fucking watch something. Eddie Guerrero beating Brock Lesnar was a bigger deal when Kane did it. Yeah, like it's just, dude, they've been trying, like MMA's been trying hard to like win over because Latino, we love fighting. We love watching fights. But it's boxing, bro. By far, dude. They put a Roger Huerta over there. They put a fucking Mexican. Let me just give you guys a tip. Don't put the Mexican flag on fucking bicycle shorts. Okay, fucking spandex. Okay, start with that. Wear trunks at least. All right. But in all seriousness, though, they've been trying to tap into the Latino market, and yes, it's fighting. You know, Mexican Americans and Mexicans love fighting. But let me just put it to you this way, okay? When Marquez fought Pacquiao, all right? When Marquez fought Pacquiao, Mexico was fucking shut down, bro. Right? Everyone was fucking watching that fight in the whole fucking country. Millions. Millions watching in the Philippines. Dude, it's not even close. So despite boxing, frustrating its fans and all the politics and all the crap, it's still the fucking king of combat sports. Okay? That I will say that, and because it's the truth. MMA's been trying to call the UFC heavyweight champion the heavyweight champion of the world. No, fuck you. The heavyweight champion of the world is the guy in boxing, and it'll always be that way. You guys need to say UFC or MMA in front of it. We don't have to say the boxing heavyweight champion. You have to say UFC heavyweight champion. Period. And you could bank on it. And let's talk about money. We're not going to talk about money because let me tell you something. If you want to grade, okay, if you want to say, okay, which fighters are better off, it's prize fighting. The best way to measure it is by the fucking prize. We have Ryan Garcia driving around in freaking Lamborghinis and shit, okay? Period. Let me ask you this very seriously. Stipe, all right, was a Golden Gloves guy. Okay, he boxed in a Golden Glove. I don't know where, I forget. Okay, you don't think he would be boxing, bro, for $20 million a pop if he could fucking do it? If he could fuck with those guys in the top 10? Of course, but he can't. So that's why okay, let me just tell you, right? It doesn't mean, look, I'm not here to tell you that these boxers could go to MMA right now, right? And win in the octagon. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay? But make no mistake about it. Where's the money's in boxing? By far. By far, dude. It's not even close. And you have stupid boxing fans that mock boxers when they only make $5 million or some shit. He only had a guarantee of $5 million. Like, that's how stupid. Of course, that's the stupid part about boxing fans. All right, that's the dumb part about them. I get that completely. But the UFC guys are like, and I don't give a shit. Good, get underpaid. I don't give a fuck. Boxing's king. Boxers are the highest paid fucking, combat sport athletes out there, period. But the undercard fighters in the UFC make more. The UFC is an organization that has about 400 fighters. No boxing promoter has a top 400 guys under just his banner. They're spread out around the fucking world with multiple promoters. They headline cards every fucking weekend. Those guys are the ones making more money than UFC fighters. Felix Sturm over there in Germany was making more than UFC fighters, okay? Klitschko, okay, was out there making $19 million fighting in stadiums in Germany and shit. We know where the money's at. We know where the prize fighting money's at. We know where it's at. I'm only bringing it up because it's here reality, right? UFC fighters want that. That's why they want to be part of the Ali Act, right? They want to, okay, get the rights boxers have. That's what they want, right? They want that. They get jealous and shit when they see boxers make what they make. That's why Henry Cejudo got angry and, jealous of Ryan Garcia. Lastly, one thing you said, Coach, you say in your video, and I just thought it was like it was a blanket statement a little bit, right? You said that MMA fighters are very approachable and boxers are not. And you used the example of Crawford. Well, I mean, that's Crawford, though. You know what I mean? And you have guys like Adrian Broner want to get in a fight with everybody that ask him a tough question. I get that, all right? That's right, Curtis. I would like to see that. Even Floyd. Floyd was the highest paid athlete of the whole fucking decade and shit. I mean, just think about that for a second. And second was like Manny Pacquiao, where he was like third or some shit like that. Coach, one, all right? Here's some issues with UFC. One, they took away a lot of money from fighters, okay, because you know they have that exclusive deal with Reebok, all right? That's an issue, right? I think that's a hell of an issue. Okay, so they took away a lot of money from guys like that, from Cutman and all that stuff. Okay, so that's problematic, right? But back to the approachable thing. Man, I've talked to many fighters, bro. I've had conversations on Twitter going back and forth with Lennox Lewis. Lennox fucking Lewis, like paying me mine for a little bit. George Foreman's over there responding to just, he'll retweet the most random people. I've gone to boxing events and, you know, I approach fighters and they talk to me. Like, I don't know where you're getting this boxers are not approachable thing. I honestly don't know. Maybe he just had some bad luck, right? I think he had some bad luck approaching some boxers, bro. And I'm just saying, yeah, Chicano, I don't know where he got that. I think boxers are very approachable, actually. Right? Okay, when I was doing the show on Rope-A-Dope Radio, I mean, I would contact boxers, bro, and they would come on. They would come on the show and talk to me shit. You know, from your Jesse Vargas's to Danny Garcia's to, you know, especially the prospects, you know what I mean? A lot of these fighters are very approachable. I mean, don't judge all boxers because of the way Crawford is. Okay, I've never approached Crawford, but if that's how he is, that's him. You know what I mean? Yes, I am. You could walk into a gym and just talk to boxers, bro. Ali Setbacks is annoying as fuck, bro. And these boxers still, like, talk to them. All right? Ali Setback, okay, was in a plane, right? And he was, you know, pointing his camera at fucking Spinks, asking him questions, and he looks tired, and he was, you know, he kept his patience and answered Ali Setback's question. Ali Setback, bro, will just go in Robert Garcia's gym, and he talks to everybody, bro. Just saying. Right? Not to mention other fights, man, from the, you know, look at 140. At 140, we had a Hooker against Ramirez. We had Tater against Prograis. Those were the top 4 guys fighting each other this year. Well, last year. But you get what I'm saying. All right? It's not like fights are... It's just... It's an... Like, yes. Okay? Yes. We do have issues with getting some fights done. A lot of politics. But it's overstated that fights never happen. That's just not true, right? Like, do we want Crawford Spence? Yes. Have we got in the fight? No, right? Okay, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But we could talk about the fights that did happen. You know what I mean? At 154, Ion, exactly. Fights happening, bro. Upsets happening. You know, J-Rock gets an upset. Rosario comes, he gets an upset. Like, MMA gets credit for stuff like that all the time. What is this? They don't want to make D. Johnson versus TJ for a super fight, but they don't want to pay Johnson $2 million. But MMA guys think boxing is dead. Yeah, man. What they did to Demetrius Johnson, right? If a boxing promoter did that, okay, the closest example I have for you is a Reagan-Dow situation, right? That's the closest example I have for you. MMA fans, I see them all the time talking about how boring this guy is and all that. Kurt said Bruce Lee studied Muhammad Ali for hours upon hours. Absolutely. Man, Ali over there asking dumbass questions, and a bunch of fighters have, like, you know, trainers, and they have all the patience in the world. They give them all the time in the world. I see dudes put cameras on fighters' faces all the time, bro, asking stupid questions, and the fighters, I see them all the time. Steve Cunningham's approachable, absolutely. I've actually messaged Steve Cunningham on Twitter before a couple years ago, and he responded. Tarver responds, and Roy Jones is approachable. He gives almost anybody an interview. Coach, I don't know where you got this. MMA fighters are more approachable. I just don't know where you got that from. I'm sorry. I'm not saying MMA fighters are not approachable. I don't know where you got that from. So I'm just saying, you know? I don't know. I mean, look. So you got, all right. Right now, obviously, we got the pendant. By the way, guys, throw a jab at the like button, all right? And if you can, for those here, man, I know you're watching like videos like this. You guys pop up, but don't forget about the Featherweight Fantasy Tournament, man. Make sure you guys check that one out, okay? Great stuff. Shout out to Salvador Sanchez. Now, Curtis brought up the example about Aaliyah Tyson. Bro, I want to see MMA produce a dude like Chavez or Salvador Sanchez from Mexico. It ain't going to happen, bro. Not in my lifetime. I'm sorry. Like, I mean it when I say this, guys. When Cain Velasquez got the win over Brock Lesnar, all right, we, as a Mexican community, we acknowledged it. But it wasn't that big of a deal. It just wasn't. It wasn't that big of a deal. All right? Because of boxing's lore and history, you know, because of that, when Ruiz won it, it was a big deal. And I got to say, I remember when you downplayed it, Coach. I remember when you said, okay, the Tater Pursoon fight was far more exciting. I think what that tells me is that your frequency is not there with boxing. And look, and that happens to a lot of us. All right. There's been, like, I've gone 2-3 years where I didn't follow the sport that much because I got tired of a lot of stuff. But then once I'm in that frequency with the sport and I'm following it division by division and I'm looking at the matchups that are upcoming, you know, I'm in line right there. You know what I mean? And I understood the significance of that. Like, I'm just saying, right? Just don't approach Sergey Kovalev in an airplane. Absolutely 92. Kurt says, I talk to fighters all the time. Tim Witherspoon, Leha, Campbell, Bird. Yeah. Chris Bird, very, very approachable. So I'm just saying, all right? And, you know, obviously, are there going to be boxing channels that just talk about the same 3-4 things like you mentioned? Yes. Right? But there is a lot to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking forward to a fight I'm looking forward to is Berchelt versus Oscar Valdez. Okay? To me, that's a big fight. That's a fight I want to see. And I'm looking forward to that fight. All right? That's just one example. Fury versus Wilder 3 is a fight I'm looking forward to. That's a big-ass fight, right? Bigger than any UFC heavyweight fight I could recall. You know? Lastly, I mean, UFC's done a lot of fucked up shit, man. What they did to Mark Hunt, all right? I think the UFC knew Brock Lesnar was juicing, but they wanted him back, right? They've done a lot of fucked up shit too, right? UFC and other sports are not above, everyone likes to talk about boxing. Like, everyone treats boxing like an ugly stepchild, okay? And that's what I've noticed. I got to be honest with a lot of you guys that are fans of both sports, boxing and MMA, you treat, or you're just kind of a fan of boxing, but you watch a bunch of other sports. Not that I don't watch other sports, I do, but my passion is boxing, right? But a lot of you guys that have different passions, you treat boxing like an ugly stepchild, right? You criticize boxing about this doesn't happen, that didn't happen, that was a robbery. I mean, robberies happen in MMA too. They use the same fucking commissions. They use the same damn judges, right? It's overseen by the same damn commissions and shit. I've never understood this whole, like, in boxing, the judges are, are bought out. Well, it's the same ones in MMA. It's the same commissions. It's overseen by the same bodies and shit. So, just something I wanted to touch upon. And my problem with boxing is dudes get hurt or killed. I need you to take a break when that happens. Absolutely. Look, man, there's too many boxers out there, and I can think of like a Patrick Day, for example, right? There's too many boxers putting their lives on the line for our entertainment, okay? For me, just to sit by idly and allow people to treat it like some ugly stepchild and criticize it about everything, but like they don't have that same energy about other sports. Baseball, the Astros get caught blatantly cheating, right? Soccer, FIFA is corrupt as shit. All right, very corrupt. Over there, like they have practically slave labor going on in Qatar right now. I mean, it's seriously. The NFL, corrupt as shit. They hide footage of players beating up their wives and cover shit up and all that. But for Kaepernick, who just took a knee, they fucking shut him out of the sport. Not to mention all the horrible, questionable calls I see refs do all the time in other sports. NBA referees getting caught betting on games and shit, and that they were, refereeing and all that, officiating, I should say. So, like, I get it. Boxing has a lot of problems and corruption, but all the fucking sports do. Okay? Look, I've never, like, gone out of my way to bash other sports, but everybody does it in boxing. And I too, like you said, it's out of love. I get it. A lot of us love the sport. We want what's best. I think Coach wants what's best for the sport. Right? But I do have to say, though, that I'm all for criticizing the sport about this, that, and the third. But it's also give the sport credit where credit is due. A lot of boxers have, in the last 10, 20 years, have put their lives on the line for our entertainment. And we've had some amazing fights over the last few years. Great fights. Can we compare boxing to like the 80s, even the 90s, 70s? No. And maybe we're holding it to that standard, but that's a high standard. All right? Very high. Old sport versus new sports is A-Rod, but can't get rid of them no matter what. World Cup going to be bigger than a Super Bowl, and boxing always going to be bigger than UFC. Man. Oh, and UFC is trash. Some of the fighters rock with, but I can count them on half of my hand. And this is what I'll end it with, man. To me, boxing is just a superior sport. Right? Like, it just is. I think its history shows it. Its longevity shows. When UFC is still around after 100 years, then we can talk. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens when something similar to, like the Ali Act passes in MMA, and a league isn't allowed to have its own, have its own belt and be its own sanctioning body, right? And then we will see what happens then, because that day is coming, and and then when fighters, because the Ali Act, for those that don't know, prevents something like the UFC from even being a thing in boxing. And what are we gonna do? Tell boxers, nah, man, you're gonna fight for $200,000. You're not gonna fight for $4 or $5 million anymore. Like, who's gonna take that deal? Nobody is. You know how we fix issues where fighters aren't fighting each other? We demand, we push, and we call for these fights. In boxing, these guys fight each other if they want to. Okay? I get the whole concept of, in the UFC, they just make them fight. Okay, fine. In boxing, it's if they want to. And my God, I see a lot of them wanting it. 75 more years. That's right. Chicano says he'll rather watch women's UFC than women's boxing. Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of flack for that, man. I don't even want to touch on that because I've always gotten in trouble for it. But yeah. I just the way I see it. I'm just being honest. You know what I mean? So that's that. Those are my thoughts, man. Shout out to the coach. So make sure you subscribe to him. And this is D-Style Boxing. I'm going a bit. Stay tuned tomorrow, guys, for Hispanics, Carlson, Panic. I'm out. Peace.